once again to our show that is called Real Shame. It's a show where we watch movies from our movie list of shame or movie blind spot, basically movies that we haven't seen, that we're rectifying that by watching it and then talking about it. I'm Adam.
I'm Andy.
Earlier in the week, we watched a movie by Sam Raimi, his best movie, don't listen to this guy, that stars Bill Paxton, Billy Bob Thornton, about a crime, and Andy decided to pair it with another movie. Why don't you tell us all about that?
Alrighty, two men and a woman who have just been involved in several murders slowly make their way to a little town in Arkansas,
Star City,
where the local sheriff and two Los Angeles cops await their arrival in one false move.
Howdy, Dale Dixon. Welcome to Star City, boys. We got a full day ahead of us, so if you just follow me over to the motel, we'll get you unpacked and get you something to eat. You know, as soon as I saw you guys drive by, I knew you must be the boys from California. Cops look the same everywhere, I guess. Well, follow me.
So One False Move came out in 1992. It's directed by Carl Franklin. Carl Franklin actually started out as an actor. He was in a lot of mainly television series, just, you know, an episode here, an episode there, all throughout the late 70s and the 1980s. He transitioned over into making films. One False Move was not his first film. He made some kind of B movies, really, before he made One False Move. But I would say One False Move was his kind of, you know, big, and not that this was a big film, but major studio kind of backed film that came out, you know, because the things he'd done before that, Full Fathom 5 was one. I don't even remember what the other two were, but they were not nearly as high profile or have the acting talent that is probably in this film. He has gone on to work with Denzel Washington a couple of times at least. Devil in a Blue Dress, he directed him in, and the movie Out of Time. Both of those films Carl Franklin directed. Now Carl Franklin is mainly working in television, according to IMDb. He's moved over into directing a lot of different episodes of high-profile TV series, including the recent Jeffrey Dahmer, Evan Peters series that was on Netflix. He directed at least one episode of that, according to IMDb, but lots of other shows that you would have heard of. It was written, One False Move that is, was written by Billy Bob Thornton himself. Yes, Billy Bob Thornton, in addition to acting, also does some writing on the side.
Yeah, I feel like he's written a couple movies.
He has, and notably Sling Blade. And he co-wrote this movie with a guy named Tom Epperson. Unfortunately, I didn't bother to look up what old Tom Epperson has written. I think he's written at least one other movie with Billy Bob Thornton, so they've worked together. Additionally, in addition to One False Move. One False Move also has Billy Bob Thornton in it. He plays Ray Malcolm, psychopathic Ray Malcolm.
That's right.
Cinda Williams plays his girlfriend in the movie. She plays Fantasia / Lila. She goes by Fantasia now. Cinda Williams actually got her start in acting in Spike Lee's Mo Better Blues 2 years prior to this film, back in 1990. And Billy Bob Thornton and Cinda Williams were married from 1990 to 1992. I believe they, at least according to the IMDb trivia, if you can believe it, they had already split up by the time this movie came out. So they were only married for about 2 years, and then they called it quits. Billy Bob Thornton has been married
Quite a few
4 times. Yeah, 5 times. Several times, and none of them have really lasted that long.
He's married to Angelina Jolie.
His most recent marriage, I think, is the longest lasting. Yeah, Angelina Jolie, that one didn't last very long either. This movie also stars Michael Beach as Pluto, who's kind of the third character out of the criminals. Bill Paxton plays the hick sheriff Dale Dixon in Arkansas. I'm not saying everybody in Arkansas is a hick, but Dale Dixon, the character, is definitely kind of a hick in this film.
Yes, for sure.
And then Earl Billings and Jim Metzler play the Los Angeles police officers McFeely and Dud Cole. Come down to Arkansas to help out old Dale Dixon. This is a movie that I've seen one time before. I remember this movie being super critically acclaimed back when it came out. I don't think I saw it back in 1992. I probably saw it a few years later on video, and I really didn't remember a whole lot about it, honestly.
Yeah.
It had basically left my memory. I thought Bill Paxton was one of the criminals in this movie, but I was wrong. So that's how bad my memory was of this film. But this is a movie that you've never seen before.
That's right.
Have you ever heard of One False Move?
No, never heard of it at all.
I'm not surprised, because I would gather that most people have not heard of this film. Which is again kind of one reason why I wanted to pick it along with A Simple Plan, or pair it with A Simple Plan. Not only because it stars Billy Bob Thornton and Bill Paxton, they're both movies, but also it's another kind of crime movie from the 90s
Yeah.
that was critically acclaimed, just like A Simple Plan. So, never seen it.
Never seen
Didn't know much about it. Did you know anybody that was in it?
Nope, not until I saw them on the screen.
Okay, so going into it pretty blind. Kind of what were your expectations of it? Like expecting more of like a crime actiony thriller? Because I certainly was.
Yeah, I was expecting something along the lines of Simple Plan.
Yeah.
You know, coming off of that and
Yeah.
with them and stuff like that, and it's not. It's the movie. I feel like is trying to be a little bit more. It's not actiony at all. It feels like it's trying to be more like thoughtful, I guess, in its pacing and stuff like that. But honestly, the movie didn't really work for me at all. I found it more slow and tedious than I did like thoughtful and like intentional and all that kind of stuff.
I would imagine Simple Plan is a hard act to follow.
Yeah, especially
really
how I felt it.
Yeah.
With it.
Yeah.
And I watched the movies like 2 days apart, so I gave it some time to breathe.
Yeah.
So for me, like it came off like slow and tedious, and I just kept on waiting for the movie to get going. It just felt timid the whole time. Like it never felt like it got running. It always felt like it's starting, it's almost getting its legs under it, and then it just kind of continues that for the whole runtime of the movie. I was really waiting for it to kind of roll forward. I will say probably the confrontation at the end, it gets his legs under it a little bit more and it gets the momentum to it, because the realization that happens at the end that you find out with like you find out more of the history between Bill Paxton's character and Cinda Williams' character is awesome. Like I think that is really interesting, and it kind of came at me like it hit me with like a ton of bricks, kind of whatever that expression is. So that was like, whoa, this is interesting. Like I didn't know this was coming. Like I wish they had time to deal with that a little bit more. And it really just kind of throws it out there, and then really there's not a whole lot left of the movie to kind of deal with the ramifications of that. But I found that interesting. We can get into that a little bit more in spoilers. But for me, like the movie also felt timid and just like low energy and just tedious. And honestly, it didn't really work for me that much. I also think like you hear this Fantasia bit, throughout the movie, they're referring to her as Fantasia because that's what her friends knew her as. And then like, about halfway through the movie, you realize that, like I said, Bill Paxton's character knows who she is. Like she's from that city. Yeah. But I wish that came earlier. Like I wish that was more like part of the starting out of the movie, part of the introduction and getting things going, rather than like a late kind of realization kind of thing like that. Because I think that would have gave the movie more momentum and stuff like that. So for me, I just kind of, it didn't really work for me because it just felt too slow and too timid and not as interesting as it could be. Because I think there's some points in there that could be, but it just felt that's how it came off to me when I was watching it. So yeah, and it felt very like TV movie to me also. I don't know if you got that vibe. So that's kind of where I sat with One False Move. What about you? You said you've seen it once before. Did you how'd you feel about it that time, and then did your thoughts of it changed this time around?
So I don't remember a whole lot about it. The first time that I saw it, as I said, I thought Bill Paxton was actually one of the criminals. Yeah. But I do remember not really liking it that much when I saw it back in 95 or whenever I saw it, because I remember watching Siskel and Ebert review it, and they gushed over it, and talking about how great it was. And when I saw it, I was like, I was expecting it to be filled with more action, and maybe that was the problem, is because I probably saw it post Pulp Fiction, post Tarantino films that I'd seen, and so I was expecting it to be this like crazy, maybe not crazy, but this actiony crime thriller, with chase scenes or something, something like that. One false move, it's like ooh, like just sounds like. So when I saw it, I thought this is just boring, right? Yeah. It's like you cut to Bill Paxton and the two guys from L.A., and then you cut back over to the three that are kind of driving in their car. Maybe they stop at a gas station, and you cut back over here. And I'm like, Jesus, this is like nothing's happening in this movie at all, right? And then finally at the end, there's like a shootout, and it's over. So this time around, when I sat down and watched it, I still, for some reason, I thought that this was more actiony than it was. And I sat down and I thought,
in this movie.
Yeah, I thought, gosh, I thought there was more stuff going on, like more kind of frantic stuff going on in this movie. So, but when I got probably about 30 or 40 minutes into it, I realized, that's what I thought about it the first time I saw it, and I talked to myself. I said, "Remember, Andy, it's not like that." I said, "Yeah, I remember that." No,
you put a hat on this side, take it off on this side.
I'm not quite. I don't gush over it like the critics do. I mean, I do think it's really well done. It's well made. It's well acted. And I think if you kind of settle in and don't go into this movie expecting it, and obviously, for those of you watching, if you've not seen it, we'll probably spoil some things. So if you have a hankering to see it, come back and watch this later. But sure. I would say if you have not seen it and you have an interest in seeing it, first of all, good luck, because it doesn't have a North American Blu-ray release, nor is it streaming anywhere. But you can't expect that. You can't expect it to be this kind of action-y, crime thriller, frantic kind of movie, because it's not like that at all. This movie is definitely more just a drama, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got some vicious murders in it. Like at the beginning, they stab these people and just leave them for dead. And
Pluto, man,
Pluto's ruthless. He's got that knife down his sleeve, and then later on in the movie they murder a few more people along the way, along their little trek to Arkansas. So there's definitely some things that happen in it, but the movie is definitely way more of just kind of a character study. And I would say more than anything, yes, you get a sense of who Billy Bob Thornton is and how psychotic and just crazy he is. You get a sense of, I wouldn't call Pluto a psychotic. I'd call him more like a sociopath.
Yeah.
A guy who just seems devoid of any emotion and is just like, I will kill if it is necessary, And then Cinda Williams is kind of trapped in between them. But I'd say the movie, more than anything else, is about Bill Paxton and Cinda Williams, and ultimately kind of about their relationship when it is finally revealed. I don't mind that it's not revealed earlier in the film, because you've got him being this, like, hey man, we're going to get these guys. These guys, I'm so thrilled to be working with these LA cops. When they get there, he's just like, oh shoot, let's go do that. We got, he's all like, yeah, we can do this. And to him, it's three faceless people. And then they finally get the surveillance photo from the gas station and they show it to him and they go, yeah, this is them. And he's like, yeah, her name's not Fantasia, it's Lila. Yeah. And you're like, oh shit, he knows her. Because he's from that town, and
but
so
I still feel like he's super gung ho even after that. Like I don't.
I think his attitude definitely changes because he knows he doesn't want anything to happen to her. Because at least I think deep down he knows that's his kid.
Do you think so?
I think so. He wants to deny it because he uses the N-word and things like that. So he doesn't necessarily maybe want it to be his kid, but I think he knows it's his kid.
I feel like he didn't even know she had a kid until he went over the house and then started
I think he's kind of a yokel, but I like to think that he probably knew that he knocked her up.
I like that. That's the thing I like the most about this. I think it's because he's a little bit, to me it's so interesting that he's so gung-ho and wants to be this best cop, like the cop you see on TV.
He talks about going to L.A.
Yeah,
he's like, I'm going to come out to L.A. and be one of the big boys. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, whatever, dude.
Then you find out he has his history and he's done not nice things to people and stuff like that.
Because he arrested her and basically took advantage of raped her. Yeah.
So you hear, that's so interesting to me and stuff like that. But I do feel like when you get them alone in the room, in the house, and she confronts him about it, that's all interesting and how that plays out. And I wish there was more of that. But I do think he's still super gung-ho, even after he tells him it's Lila, in the cafe. He's still we're going to go out to the farm. And he's like, I got up at 4:30 in the morning and all that kind of stuff. And still super into it until he finally catches her brother lying to them that they haven't seen her because he's hanging out by their house. And then, does all that stuff, I feel like.
I think that you can look at it maybe from the perspective that at this point, he's kind of putting on airs a bit about being gung-ho because he wants to handle it himself. He wants to get her out of it and make sure that she's safe, and he'll kill the other two guys.
So,
because he never lets those guys know where he's at, and it's all over by the time they get there.
And I think that would have been really interesting too. Like if we got more of that in the movie, like again, that's me making a pitch for moving him, telling him it's Lila up closer, because then we could have Bill Paxton being really shrewd and, maybe putting on airs and being all yokel to the LA cops, right? And, they say some things that are like hurtful to him, right?
Yeah.
And you see it hurts, but how interesting would it be is if he wants them to believe that he's incompetent. So he wants them to say stuff and think that way about it. But in actuality, he's trying to get it where he can, get Lila, sorry, I keep on saying her name differently, get Lila out of this situation by dispatching the two criminals he's with. Like that would be really interesting, and I really want to see how that comes out, right? How that comes out in the wash, So that'd be me pitching like, if we got to that a little bit earlier and got to dig more into how this works and all that kind of stuff.
He's got to play both sides, and it becomes more interesting. Yeah, I
so that's where it is for me. I think there's like some good bones here of a interesting movie. I just wish they kind of went a different way with it,
Yeah, I think I definitely like it more than you. Again, I'm not over the moon about it as Siskel and Ebert or some of the other critics were, but I think it's a solid character study. It's not an action movie, so if you go into it expecting an action movie or something like that, you're going to be sorely disappointed. But I think overall, so I mentioned Bill Paxton. For me, in A Simple Plan, his dramatic range doesn't really cut it. I think he shines in a movie like this. I think because it doesn't require a whole lot of it. He can still kind of be Bill Paxton and game over man or whatever. But not quite to that level. But just this. Woo! Let's do this, boys. This is the good old boy who's like, I've been sheriff here for 6 years or whatever, and I know everybody in town. And I do love that part where he goes to Ray's uncle's house. And they go there. He goes in there to talk to him, and he's like, hey, when's the last time you heard from Ray? He's like, Ray, that's my brother's kid. And he's like, yeah, when's the last time you heard from him? Yeah, I know who he is. He's like, okay, when's did you last talk to him? Who? Ray, Ray, that's my brother's way. Just keeps repeating.
It's like a who's on first kind of thing,
right? That's priceless to me. I love that. But when Fantasia / Lila finally shows up, it definitely gets very interesting. And kind of the moments that they share in the house, and her telling him, you took advantage of me, and he's like, no, it's not my kid. She's like, well, now you're calling me a whore. Believe me, that's your kid and everything. And then, big spoilers, after the final shootout, when Bill Paxton is probably dying. He probably didn't make it. His son comes out. His son has no clue who he is, right? Yeah. But he's just like, Mister, what's wrong? Just talking. It's very sad. Yeah. It's depressing.
Well, he's like, your mom's over there. Don't go over there.
Yeah, because mom's got a freaking hole in her head, in the middle of her forehead. But it gets a little wild and crazy there at the end. But I think it's a good, solid kind of character study. It is a bit slow, even at 90-ish minutes. It is a bit slow, and I agree. It can be a little bit tedious, but I would say I like it overall. You just really have to know what you're getting into. Yep. Definitely.
For sure.
As I mentioned, it has no North American Blu-ray release. The only availability that I know of is a part of a box set put out by an Australian label called Imprint. But that box set includes some other decent, interesting kind of films. Mortal Thoughts, I know, is one. Twilight with not the Robert Pattinson movie. Twilight with Paul Newman and Gene Hackman, I think, is in that, and Susan Sarandon. So some good kind of 90s movies of that kind of ilk. So if you want to check that box set out, it's available at least as an import. Get on eBay or something. This movie, One False Move, I mentioned it's critically acclaimed. It is 94% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Audience, 75%. But it got 2 gigantic thumbs up. Siskel picked this as the best film of 1992.
Wow.
And Roger Ebert picked it as the second best film of 1992. The only film better, according to Roger Ebert, was Malcolm X, Spike Lee's Malcolm X. So they both really, really like this film. I'm not quite to that level. And Leonard Maltin gives it 3 out of 4 stars.
All right. Wow. So that was our thoughts on One False Move. On these Wednesday episodes, we like to answer viewers' questions. And this week we picked one that has to do with the movies we were reviewing, as we normally do, and what is our favorite Bill Paxton movie?
Bill Paxton. R.I.P.
R.I.P. Yeah, I was looking through his filmography, and he's in a lot of movies I like. This is a hard one for me because he's in a lot of the James Cameron movies. Including like Terminator. He's like as a bit role in that.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Aliens. Obviously, he's in Titanic. He's in True Lies.
Yeah, it says he's in Commando with Schwarzenegger. I don't remember him being in that at all.
Yeah. So I mean, he's in all that stuff. He's been in like those 90 like disaster movies like Twister, that I know Kirby's a big fan of, and all that kind of stuff. He's in a movie that I like that we did for Halloween called Near Dark.
Mm-hmm.
That I know you weren't the biggest fan of, but I liked it a whole lot.
Well, he's in another horror film called Mortuary from 1982, which isn't a great movie, but you should watch, if nothing else, YouTube the scene where he skips away after talking to these people because it's hilarious.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Just put Bill Paxton skipping or something like that.
He's in Spy Kids 3. Game over, man. Game over.
Game over, man. Game over. Yeah. So it's funny looking through his filmography. I feel like he's not in a lot of movies where he's the leading man.
Yeah,
would that be fair to say? It seems like he's always part of an ensemble, or he's like more of a small, much smaller part. I mean, you definitely got movies like Apollo 13. He's part of an ensemble still, but I mean, he's definitely one of the more important people in the film. And Twister would be a film where he'd be the lead. But then you have movies like, who the hell is he in Predator 2? Jerry Lambert.
Maybe
and then he's in Navy SEALs along with, but Michael Biehn and Charlie Sheen are the real kind of stars in that film. But I mean, he's definitely, a leading man in certain films, but not like Aliens and stuff like that.
He's like in the Tombstone, which he's like part of an ensemble cast there.
Right.
Apollo 13, also part of kind of an ensemble cast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he kind of is like a little extra spice you add to a movie if you want some guy to scream "Game over, man! Game over."
So I've got probably two shout outs.
Okay,
then I'll say, and then I'll say what my my favorito. I don't know what favorito is. Favorite Bill Paxton film today. Anyways, so one shout out that I would like to make is a movie that he did called The Last Supper from 1995, which yet again another kind of ensemble piece. Okay. He's in there with a lot of other people, but it's basically these people. And I feel like this has been done in other movies since then or similarly, but this is a movie, it's kind of a black comedy, dark comedy, where these people invite people that they do not really agree with, like politically or religiously or whatever. They invite them to dinner, and it's called The Last Supper because they kill them. Yeah, gotcha. they murder them. But these people feel like what they're doing is right. And again, it's not meant to be taken super seriously. It's kind of a dark comedy, but I feel like that's a movie that doesn't get talked about as much. And admittedly, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I do remember liking it back in the day. The other movie I was going to call out of his, you mentioned it earlier, not while we were filming, but before we were filming, Weird Science, where he plays a very small part in that, but I love that movie so much. It's just so stupid and silly and funny, but like he's funny in it as like this military gung-ho, brother with a crew cut who is always beating up on Anthony Michael Hall and the other guy whose name escapes me at this point. One movie that I know that Bill Paxton's in, I guess he's the star in it, that I can't stand is Twister. I hate Twister.
Oh, you gotta talk to Kirby about that. Twister's one of her favorite movies.
I can't stand that movie. Maybe if I saw it now, maybe time has softened me on it, but I couldn't stand it when I saw it back in 1996. I thought it was a pile of shit. I'll let you go, and then I'll say my number one if you want to do any shout outs.
Yeah, I mean, I think I I think I shouted out before you jumped into it on a lot of stuff. I will say, like, he's in Haywire, and Haywire is a great movie. I feel like not a lot of people seen that. This is Gina Carano action flick. Yeah. Like shot by Steven Soderbergh, I think, and stuff like that. Two Guns he's in. I don't remember him that, but Two Guns is based off a graphic novel. But that's actually a pretty decent, pretty fun movie. If you've never seen that.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, like I said, I'm having a hard time picking a favorite Bill Paxton movie. I just keep on going up and down his list, trying to see what jumps out as me as his favorite thing. I mean, I feel like it's a cop out to say Simple Plan since I gushed over it last episode,
Yeah.
but I would say probably of his filmography, this is my favorite movie, but because I really
Yeah.
like this movie, and
Yeah.
probably because of recency bias and all that kind of stuff. So I'll say probably of the movies he's in, maybe I would give it a leg up to Aliens. Maybe next behind A Simple Plan, I think is what's jumping out at me right now. So today, if it's not A Simple Plan, it'd be Aliens, but who knows? Tomorrow might be Near Dark or a different movie.
I thought you might say Near Dark. I'm going to go with Apollo 13.
Yeah, I mean, Apollo 13's great.
Yeah.
That's Ron Howard's best movie.
Yeah, Ron Howard. He's done a few solid movies, but yeah, that one's a really really good one. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with Apollo 13. But yeah, as you said, it's hard because he's in a lot of cool stuff like Tombstone and Aliens and all that. So yeah, he's done some good stuff. Whether or not he has a big part in it is another matter, but he's done some really good movies.
That's right. All right, well, that's our favorite Bill Paxton movies. Please let us know down below if you're watching this YouTube what your favorite Bill Paxton movies are, or you can shoot us an email, realshame@gmail.com. That's where we answer viewer questions that are sent to us, so please send us those viewer questions. Please like, subscribe, share, do all that social media stuff. It really does help, and we really do appreciate it. And stay tuned next week as we watch some movies from this guy, Andy's List of Shame. We'll see you soon, guys. Have a good one. Bye.